What up guys, it's Drama for Life here today and I'm back with another video. Now today's video we're going to be talking about how strong is Asura from Asura's Wrath. Now I've been wanting to do this for quite a while. I have played the game, obviously you've been seeing me put up gameplay in my other videos, but the problem was when you play the game and you beat it, there's 18 chapters, but then there's a secret 19th chapter which has the complete ending of the game and additional stuff that you have to do, and I've been taking some time to finish that, which it did take some time. Luckily, I have finished it now, and I feel like it's important to, reveal what crazy feats I got towards the ending. Because I'll definitely say the end of the game, the complete end of the game, the feats are far more crazier than anything else we saw throughout the rest of the game. So it was very important to get to this part. Now, before I get into it, I do want to give a big shout out to a couple of, new subscribers of mine. First, to Trade the Truth, then to Rip Tonight, and Cody Grand Jean. Thank you to all three of you for subscribing to this channel. I've been getting a lot of subscribers lately. My subscriber count went up quite significantly, at least for my channel. So big thank you to all of you guys. So now let's get into his feats. Now he has it's weird because he doesn't have that many feats. It really depends actually. There are a ton of small feats in this game that are kind of repetitive that I can go on, but I'm not gonna waste too much time on those. I'm gonna mainly focus on the bigger feats, which that's where it starts being a little more confusing, because the bigger feats, there's not actually that many of them. There's just a lot more smaller feats, and it's kind of ridiculous to me to be honest, because he is considered to be the most powerful, or at least one of the most powerful video game characters out there. They put him above like Kratos and Sephiroth and all these other characters. They say he's universal, all these other things. So his claims are very, very high, and it really takes towards the tail end of the game where you get additional gameplay where you actually get to more ridiculous feats. But before that, we do see some crazy feats, but there's not that many, if I'm being honest. And yes, he has some impressive feats, but is he the most powerful video game character, or one of the most powerful video game characters out there? Well, we're going to be seeing in this video. Now the smaller feats are usually just him destroying like ships. He's destroying giant spaceships, destroying these giant creatures called Goma or whatever, and he's destroying like giant fish creatures that fly into space, and he's defeated like an elephant character and a giant turtle, and they're huge character, like not characters, but they're huge animal type of demon thingies that are probably impressive to beat, but they're not that really impressive, and it's kind of repetitive the way they beat them, because they're just like casual enemies that show up in the game. So those are basically the casual enemies, is fighting giant spaceships, giant fish creatures in space, and turtles, and what's the thing called, an elephant, giant versions of these Goma things. And those things are not that impressive of feat wise, if I'm being honest. We don't see anything too crazy on that front. And the other characters in the game that we're beating, they are demigods, but they don't really show that many interesting powers, except for a few of them. First we have Wizen, who is this big sumo wrestling looking one. And at first, the fight against him is not that impressive, but as it transitions and he starts to go crazier and, unleashes his full power, he turns super giant. And you guys probably have seen this image countless times where he's so big that his little finger pressing down on the earth was like destroying a continent, or at least a country size. And it's very, very massive. So he was bigger than the earth, and he was pushing his finger down, being able to destroy a country / continent with just the push of his finger. Asura was able to catch it and then punch it so hard that he was able to destroy him with the final punch, completely destroying his entire body. So not only did he stop an entire finger from being this bigger than a planet, pushing down on it to destroy a continent, but he was also strong enough to punch him so hard that he completely destroyed this being that was bigger than a planet. So that would be a planet level feat. Then the other big feat that we see is from his mentor. I forgot what his mentor's name was. And as he's fighting him, they go to the moon. So Asura flies to the moon. He's fighting him there, which is pretty impressive in itself. And as he's fighting, the general guy that taught him basically destroys a part of the moon, and literally the moon surface itself lifts up off the ground like hundreds of meters in the air, maybe even a mile or two up in the air. That's how powerful he was. He was able to break half of the moon and send it flying up, and like the other part of it descending. That's how powerful he was. And then after that, he basically is able to extend out his sword, hits Asura with it, sends him flying from the moon all the way towards the earth. So he reaches from the moon to the earth in a couple of seconds, which it takes 1.3 seconds for the light to go from the earth to the moon and obviously back. So that would be like light speed, but this one would be close to light speed because it did take a couple seconds. It could be either light speed or close to it, but then he's able to push him with his sword and slam him into the ground, which he survives. He holds it and he shatters the sword, defeating him. So that was the other impressive feat, him destroying, be able to cut up half the moon and lift it up to like a mile or two, and then be able to hit Asura with his sword and send him flying from the moon to the earth within a couple of seconds, and like creating a giant crater impact and tanking it and surviving it, which is also quite impressive. Also, Asura does die and get defeated quite a bit in this game, so it's crazy because he dies a lot of times, but he keeps on coming back. Now, at first, it took him, I think they said 10,000 years, so he was dead for a long time. Then it was 500 years, then it was a couple of days, and then after that, he would come back pretty quick. So yeah, at first he would take forever to come back. By that time, like most other characters would be dead because they wouldn't be able to live that long. So if he was fighting against a character that has normal human life, if he died to that character once, by the time he came back the first time, that guy would have been dead generations ago and he would have missed his mark. Even in the second time, he had 500 years, which is quite a lot. But after that, he does come back a lot more recently. And that's definitely a big, impressive feat to be able to self-resurrect every time. Every time he dies, he goes to this underworld and he climbs this tower that looks like Korn's tower, and then climbs back up to the, the living realm. And for them to die, these characters, these demigod beings, they usually, it's like game logic where they get destroyed and then they completely disappear, like their body frame just glows and magically disappears, which that never happens to him. He just dies and stays in that place, and then his soul gets sent down there and he comes back up. Now he has multiple fights against the other guys, but there's no really impressive feats I can really call out. Even against Deus, I think it was his name, pretty close towards the end of the game, he had lightning based powers and he was very fast and stuff, but I'm talking about pure feats itself from what was showcased, and there's nothing to showcase from that. It's just from the gameplay. So yeah, there was nothing too crazy there. Then we get to the end of the game, and I don't see anything that impressive towards the end of the game either. I don't remember. He does destroy Deus in the ending, and he has to fight. Oh yeah, he has to fight against the big enemy, which is this big creature that comes out from the other half of the planet. It literally comes out from the planet, and before they're like, you can't kill him. But him and Yasha, when they were attacking this creature that is like half of the planet itself, they destroyed it and then went inside the center to fight its, like, I guess its nucleus form, and they beat that form too, and that's where they presume the game was ended. But there was no really impressive feats from there. This is where the crazy feats start coming in after the game, the add-on, story mode, which comes in chapter 9 and 19, which you have to play extra. Now this is where we get crazy because we get revealed with throughout the game, there's this golden spider in the underworld where Asura is there multiple times and he keeps on helping him, and he's getting out. We find out that he's this godly being that got transformed into a golden spider, and he needs to get his power back. So he needs Asura's help and to get close to his daughter, who has a mantra. She has a very powerful ability to get all the mantra from the earth, which is just basically prayers and wishing and faith. And he's able to use that energy to go back to his godly form. And as he does, he's wreaking havoc. He disintegrates the big ship thingy that they're on, and he uses the power, and he becomes a giant himself. He becomes so massive that he eclipses the planet itself, and then Asura has to fight him. But before this, Asura fights Yasha. As he does, he beats Yasha. He takes his eccentric core, Yasha gives it to him. He puts it into his body, and this gives him a significant power boost. This isn't Asura's regular power. Asura usually can get stronger if he gets angrier, but he's never shown to this level. And with Asura's Yasha's core inside Asura's body, he was able to get a significant power boost to the point where he was able to turn into a giant that was matching the size of the godly being too. And he was bigger than the planet also, so they're both creatures bigger than the planet considerably. I don't know exactly how much bigger than the planet. I don't want to assume, but they are decently bigger than the planet, maybe at most two times the size. I mean, at the least two times the size of the planet, which is pretty impressive. And he has giant six arms too. And as he's fighting him, he's fighting this creature, and this creature, this godly being, tries to fire an energy beam from it to destroy the Earth. He fires his own energy attack to fight it back. Now, this energy beam does hit a planet and disintegrating it, showcasing that the beam itself is far bigger than a planet, seeing as how it was able to engulf it, and it almost engulfed the Earth of Asura didn't come in. So the blast radius was basically the size of the Earth, which is pretty massive, and these guys are bigger than that. Also, people might note that how the Gali being has countless, what's this thing called? Galaxies around him. Countless galaxies around him, which I will go to towards the ending, but that does also showcase the presence of how powerful he is. Of not only he's that big and can obliterate planets, but the fact that he has galaxies around him to symbolize how massive he is. So I will get into that because that also does lean into how godly powerful this being is. And as the fight progresses and you're chasing after him and start firing blasts, as Asura is doing, this being starts throwing planets at you, and you're basically destroying planets. Now, there's multiple small planets. I say small, but they most possibly Earth-size, and Asura is able to destroy them quite easily with his energy attacks. So easily, planet level, Earth-size planet level, he's destroying these planets. Then he's firing these giant energy attacks, which some people say is stars, but I don't think they're stars. They're just giant energy blasts, and they're the size of the planet. So even so, he does start firing later on another type of ones that do look like stars, and they do resemble them heavily, but they're also still not that big because if you see the size comparison, they're basically around the same size as the planets. So they're mostly Earth-sized stars as he's throwing, and then he does throw a massive planet that is way considerably bigger than those other ones. So this one would probably be like the size of Jupiter if it was made out of solid rock. And it does look like moon, but it is a planet. So it's a planet that's the size of Jupiter, way bigger than the Earth, but fully solid. So that's even more dense and stuff. And Asura is able to punch a hole through it, which people might think it's pretty impressive to punch a hole through a planet that size, but just know punching a hole through something and completely destroying it are two different things. Punching a hole through something is a lot easier than completely destroying that thing, you know? Like, some people can punch a hole through a wall, that doesn't mean they can destroy a whole building. There's like more mass that you have to go through, and especially when it goes to a certain speed and a small level, like somebody's small enough, you can go through it. Also, Asura, like I said, was bigger than the Earth, so it makes sense that this planet's also huger than that. And then we do see him on the side, a massive star, him able to pull it. So before he was firing his own stars, which were kind of pretty small, they were the size of those planets, which were Earth size, which is far smaller than our sun, and our sun's not even that big, it's just an average sun. And then he threw another sun that was even bigger, but is it as big as our sun? I wouldn't say that because it was destroying planets that was coming nearby it, but those planets were possibly like Earth size. And if you see the size comparison between the star and that, the star is still considerably bigger than it, but not by that much. We can fit 1 million Earths into our sun, and that one seemed like those planets were like, almost the same size as it. Or not same, but like, a portion of it, like a percentage of it. So even destroying this star, it's not that significantly high. It would not be equivalent to our sun because our sun's more massive than that. Our sun completely dwarfs every other planet in our solar system. Even Jupiter looks very minuscule to our sun. And then he also starts firing off some blue giants, suns, which blue stars are more intense with heat and power. So that's pretty impressive, but they do seem quite small still too. And we see him fight through that. He punches through his head, gets into there, and then he fights inside his weird dimension thing. He fights first as in his golden form, and he's beating him up. And then he goes through another dimension area where he's back to his bigger self, and he's just destroying his energy attacks too. And then we get to his final form, which is this weird silver form with black around it. And there's not much feat wise here, but he is a godly being, and he is the most powerful godly being, and we've seen what he could do in those other stuff, and he's giving Asura a pretty big challenge, but Asura towards the ending is able to beat him. He's able to beat him with his final punch and break through him and destroying him, which in the end ended up destroying Asura too. And people say that this means that he beat the god of his universe. He was able to beat the god of his universe, that created mantra and has mantra around the world, and that's what makes the world up. And I will get into that. But those are the feats throughout the game. Now let's get through some of the feats. I did explain a little bit of some of them. Now, people make it sound like these feats are a lot more ridiculous than they actually are, and they are impressive feats, don't get me wrong. But my problem with these fans is they make it sound a lot more crazy. From what I heard is like they're saying he's throwing like stars and galaxies and stuff. I'm like, oh shit, he's really doing that stuff? That's pretty impressive to fight a godly being that can do that. And they're kind of right, but also kind of wrong. First of all, there was no galaxies thrown. It was planets and stars. And let's get into the stars and planets, but first I want to talk about the galaxy stuff. They say that he had galaxies around him. He was able to create galaxies. And yes, those are visually galaxies, but how big they are. Let's dive into the size comparison of all these other stuff. Because we have planets, we have stars, and we have galaxies, even though he didn't fire them, it was just around him. But the size comparison of some of them was not, proportional to what people might think, The galaxies, though they were the shape of a galaxy, that does not mean they were the size of one. Yes, did he dwarf them? People might say, well, that means that he's so massive that he's bigger than galaxies. But that's not the case because we saw Asura attack it. This being is definitely bigger than a planet and most likely 10 times bigger than Earth, but not big enough to be a galaxy. The size comparison you would have to be from Earth to an entire galaxy, especially multiple galaxies, is significantly higher. It's not even close. It's not even in the same realm of possibility. So the fact that yes, he was bigger than the Earth, but we saw how close he got to the Earth, and he wasn't so much bigger than the Earth to the point it was ridiculous. Yet he has countless other galaxies around him that dwarfs around him. It's most possibly that these galaxies are not actually galaxy size. They are like mini galaxies that are significantly smaller than those ones, even smaller than stars. I would say that these galaxies would be around, large planet level, which is still impressive, but this would still put it in the planet to star level range, not galaxy level range, like our galaxies at least. So yeah, people might want to say, well, look at how big it is, but look at the comparison to our Earth and what it was shown. He's not that much bigger. And then him throwing suns, a lot of those energy attacks weren't suns, they were just big energy attacks. But yeah, he did throw some stars, but let's look at the size. He threw countless planets too, and all those planets were the size of Asura, or almost the size of Asura, which were, which are comparable to the Earth. So all these planets are Earth size, which Earth is an average size planet. He's throwing average size planets, and then he's throwing suns that are the same size as these average size planets. So even if they are stars, they are super small. Some people might say, well, so are white dwarf stars or neutron stars, and they have high gravitational pull and stuff like that. But these just look like regular yellow stars. So I highly doubt that they had that much mass. It was just probably very like mini suns with less mass also. So it's still impressive, but not as impressive as throwing actual stars. It's one thing if he was throwing full-size stars at him and he was able to destroy it, but these were just, like I said, they were basically stars the size of Earth size, like planets. And then the massive planet would be like a Jupiter level thing, but once again, he didn't completely destroy it. He punched a hole through it to get through it, so that's less impressive. And then the big sun that he did throw was considerably bigger. It was engulfing planets and destroying them, but it was not still the size of our sun, because our sun would be insanely bigger than those, and the size comparison wouldn't be at all close, because this was more percentage wise. It was like 5 to 10% the size of that sun that was going to come to the way, whereas ours would be a fraction of a percentage of the size of the sun because of how big it is. And there's far bigger stars out there. Our star is actually an average to small level star. So even then, he destroyed even though it was bigger than the other ones, it was still pretty small. And the blue ones, a little more heat. Definitely the heat thing would be impressive, because not only is he taking quite a considerable amount of energy, but also a considerable amount of heat. But it just won't be to the exact extent of a full-blown star that we see. So yeah, he takes planets and stars and stuff like that. And then being the godly being, people, I don't see any crazy feats that he did. Yes, he was able to warp throughout the dimension and stuff and move and like kind of teleport and stuff and throw energy attacks, which are impressive. But there's nothing too ridiculously OP with what was happening against the fight against the godly being. So yeah. Now let's get into the godly being and the argument that by beating him, he beat the god of his universe. So basically, it's equivalent to beating God himself to that level. And this means that this is why people put him at universal level or multi-universal level. Which I'm gonna be honest, I disagree with them in that, and I'll get into it. But those other stuff that I went into, those other feats, it kind of goes to my argument on why I believe this. Because if it was, then those feats should have been a lot more ridiculous than what it was shown. But he beats this guy, and people make it sound like this being is the creator of all this universe. They never stated there was multiple universes. They only stated it was one. So we don't know if there's a multiverse in the Asura's Wrath, or a multiverse or whatever in Asura's Wrath, canon. But we just see one universe. So at most he'd be the god of one universe. But even then, he does not govern or control it completely, because when the being died, it's not like the universe died. What happens in the game is when he kills him, all the mantra from the world which he created goes away, basically like magic. Magic goes away, and then the world turns into a normal world like our world, where there's no magic, just science and stuff like that. And as he beats him, the mantra goes away. The world's still there. You see towards the ending, his daughter is still alive, and she's telling a story about her father in the post, karma world. So, yeah, this godly being isn't. People try to over exaggerate what his standing is in terms of power. They're like, wow, this being is the one who created the universe. Without him, this and that. No. He died. All that happened was all the mantra that was in the universe got taken away. So basically, he was the being that created the magic within that universe. And without that being, the magic was gone. So that's still pretty impressive, but that wouldn't be putting him at universal level by beating this guy. Because this guy wasn't a universal level being. He didn't create the universe. He just created the magic within it, or at least spread out the, karma, or mantra, not karma, mantra throughout the universe. And without him, the world still survives. It's just they don't have this magical potential and can't have godly beings. And when he does this, Asura finally dies, and that showcased that Asura can die, but you would just need to. I think maybe it's because he finally met his goal, so he didn't have that rage to come back. But who knows? Maybe he could fight against a character strong enough to completely obliterate him, and it doesn't matter if he has his rage, because he never got fully obliterated throughout the fights. I remember he gets totally wrecked throughout the entire fights and loses multiple times, but he always comes back. But it's not like fully obliterated. So yeah, people putting him at universal level or multiversal level or godly level is ridiculous, because this being didn't create the universe. He didn't create that. All he created was the mantra throughout the universe, which is very powerful, but still not to that level. So I disagree on that front that it's a godly level feat or a feat, or even a universal level feat. And like I said, if it was, then those other feats wouldn't be that like low level, because from what we've seen was he was bigger than a planet, could destroy planets, could throw mini suns the size of planets, through a giant planet the size of Jupiter, through a giant star that is bigger than planets but not the size of a star, had galaxies that were formed around it, which he didn't throw at all, and these galaxies were not even they weren't even the size of a galaxy or even possibly a star. They were planet size, or much bigger than planets, but not big enough to be galaxy level. And he had to punch through the Jupiter-sized thing and stuff, and all these other stars, and he did struggle to destroy one star. So how could he be, universal, multiversal, godly level? And when I mean godly level, I mean like transcends, dimensions and this and that stuff. Those ridiculous feats that people say. How could he be that on that level and that powerful, if Asura himself is, struggling to destroy a giant star that's not even the size of our sun? That doesn't add up. So what would be my final verdict with Asura's power level? I would put his power level at his strength and his durability. I would put it hand to hand, and it will be around at the lowest when it comes to his most overpowered form. The giant godly form. He would be planet level. At the very least, he would be Earth planet levels, like a level of destructive power and durability. At the highest, he would be small star level, not large star level or average star level. So yeah, he would be small star level because like even the big sun that he threw at him was not the size of our sun. Yes, it did destroy his planets, but like I said, our sun is insanely big. Like, come on, guys, and it's an average to small level size planet. I mean, sun. So if that sun destroyed those planets, but we saw how close up it got because it did get super close, it wasn't that much bigger than it. And Asura is supposed to be the size of Earth. So the star, when he was hitting it, it wasn't that big. And it's not like he one-shotted it. It did take him quite a bit of hits. So I would put him at, star, like at least small star level. And even if we want to highball it, he would just be, star level at most, So at his most powerful form, he's the size of a planet. Planet level durability, planet level destruction on the scale of our Earth, and at the highest he would be small star level, and if we want to highball it or wank it, it would be just star level, like medium star level. But to put him in universal or multiversal or transdimensional or all these other ridiculous statements like hyperversal and stuff, it's too ridiculous. The godly being that you beat, it wasn't like the universe was in danger or anything. The only thing that happened was the mantra from the universe went away. So that's also pretty impressive. I would say that would be a more impressive feat, but even then it's not that impressive. And from what we've seen from feats, it wasn't to that high level. The craziest and most consistent feats we've seen were planet level stuff, and to the most ridiculous towards the ending was star level. So is he powerful? Yes, 100%. Also, let's talk about speed. He would be faster than light because the energy beams he was firing were what he created the suns from, so they'll be like light from the sun, and he was able to dodge it, so he would be faster than the speed of light too. So maybe at the speed of light or 2 to 3 times faster than the speed of light. So he's a couple times faster than the speed of light, planet level durability, and planet level destruction. And I haven't seen him have any really ridiculous hacks, except for the fact that he can get resurrected sometimes. But we don't know to what extent. If he gets completely obliterated, would he be able to come back or whatever? But yeah. Is he stronger than Kratos? Possibly, but do I consider him the most powerful, video game character? No. Is he one of the most powerful video game characters? No and yes. No in the regards of there are some that are ridiculously overpowered, but there's also a lot of video game characters aren't that powerful. So I would still put him at top level, but not as high as a lot of people say. I've heard Seth the Programmer and Chuck and all these other guys put it such ridiculous, saying he beat a god. He beat the literal god of that universe. But when you actually play the game, it's like, he wasn't really the literal god of the universe. If he was, then he would have been trapped in that little spider form. If he was that powerful, how would he be depowered in any way, It's just ridiculous to compare it to that, scaling. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I felt like this was quite interesting because we had not that many feats, and most of the feats we do have are minor ones that are kind of repetitive, and the bigger ones, there's a little more to it than what a lot of people think, and it's a little more complex, but it's still pretty interesting. So yeah, that's it for Asura and how strong he is. I will just be going back to, I don't know if I have anything else crazy. I'm thinking if there's any other big projects I'm thinking about. I will be thinking about doing more bigger projects and doing other, videos on how strong, because I do like this series of how strong these characters are and doing research, but it does take quite a bit of time. So I don't know which character next specifically I should do it on. I know a lot of characters out there are very powerful, and I know a lot of you guys want me to do videos on them. Just give me a laundry list of really the top powerful characters that you want me to do research on, and if you're going to do that, at least give me the correct suggestions on where to go to find it, because I can't just pull it out of my ass. I can search up on Google and shit and look up on YouTube to find what, but it's a lot easier if you guys just tell me. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for next time.